They told me to get rid of my dog, so I built him a kingdom. They said he barked too loud, too long, too often. One complaint turned into 5, then 10, then a letter cold, sharp and clear. Remove the dog or face penalties. I stared at that paper like it was a death sentence, not just for him, but for everything good I had left. See, this wasn't just any dog. This was my best friend. My reason to get out of bed. The heartbeat at my feet when life got too quiet and they wanted me to choose between peace or punishment, between silence or him, so I made my choice. But not the one they expected. I didn't fight them with lawyers. I didn't scream back in their meetings. I picked up a shovel and started digging. This is the story of how a neighborhood tried to take away the one thing I loved most and how I turned my backyard into a sanctuary for every dog they said didn't belong. If you've ever been told to sit down, shut up, or stay small, you're in the right place. Subscribe now because this channel isn't just stories. It's proof that one person can flip the script. Asterisk, it started like any other morning. Coffee in hand. Leash in the other dot. My dog Max was already wagging his tail, ready to chase the wind. He wasn't just excited, he was grateful. See, Max came from a shelter. 3 years locked in a concrete cage. No toys, no love. No name, just a number. The day I brought him home, he didn't bark once. He just curled up in my lap and shook. Like he was still in prison, but over time he bloomed. One walk at a time, one tail wag at a time. He became my shadow, my healer, my joy. That's why, when I saw the envelope taped to my door, I knew something was wrong. White paper, black, letters, no heart. Your dog's barking has been reported multiple times. Please address this issue immediately, or face fines in accordance with HOA guidelines. I read it 3 times. My chest burned. Not because he barked too much, but because they had no idea who he was. No one knocked on my door. No one asked, "Hey, is everything okay?" They didn't care about Ustras the rules. That night, Max sat by the window, ears twitching. He didn't know what was coming, but I did. Because in neighborhoods like this, one complaint is never the end. It's the beginning of war in slow motion. And I was about to learn just how far they'd go. Asterisk, a week later, I got another letter. Then, another, and another. Different words, same message, handle your dog or we will. They called him a disturbance, a nuisance, an issue. They reduced Max to noise. They didn't know he only barked when someone walked too close to the house. They didn't know he was trained. They didn't know he was protecting me because he knew what it felt like to be abandoned. But none of that mattered to the HOA. THEY sent me fines, threats, pictures of Max behind my fence, barking. They called it evidence. I called it stalking. I tried talking to the board. They barely looked me in the eye. One of them even said, "Maybe you should have picked a quieter pet." I felt my hands ball into fists, but I didn't raise my voice. I didn't beg. I walked out, got in my car, sat in the driveway, and cried. Not because I was afraid, but because I was done being polite. Done playing by rules that were never made for people like me. Done watching Max shrink every time I tiptoed through life, trying not to upset the neighbors. And that night, as I watched Max curl up at the foot of my bed, something inside me cracked wide open. I didn't want revenge. I wanted freedom. Not just for us, but for every soul in this neighborhood being told to stay small. So I did the unthinkable. I walked outside, stood in my backyard, looked at the dead grass and old fence, and whispered, "Let's give them something to really complain about." I couldn't sleep that night. Every creak in the floor, every gust of wind, every breath Max took, all of it kept looping in my head like a warning and a dare. I opened my phone, started scrolling, not looking for escape but for answers. And then I saw it. A post from some small town. A man built a dog park in his own yard. No city funding, no permission. Just fencing, grass, and guts. My heart started racing. It was insane. It was impossible. It was ... perfect. I grabbed a notebook and started sketching. Not because I knew what I was doing, but because I knew why. If the HOA wanted silence, I'd give them joy. If they wanted submission, I'd give them community. If they wanted my dog gone, I'd give him a playground instead. That night, I walked outside in my pajamas, stood on the cold grass, looked up at the stars, and I made a promise. This yard will never be silent again. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their praise. I just needed one thing. To start. So, I ordered wood, gravel, turf, some fencing, and the next morning, I picked up a shovel, one scoop of dirt at a time. I started unbuilding their control and building something better. Asterisk, the first day, I dug until my hands blistered. No music, no help, just me, and the sound of a promise getting louder. Neighbors. walked by. Some slowed down, some whispered, some shook their heads like I'd finally lost it, but I didn't care, because for the first time in weeks, I felt alive. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was creating. I built a fence, not to keep people out, but to welcome the right ones in. I laid gravel, planted trees, ordered benches off Craigslist. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Max watched it all, tail wagging, eyes glowing. He knew something was coming, something big. One afternoon, a kid from down the street stopped by, held the gate and asked, "Can my dog come in?" I paused, then nodded. And just like that, the first paw hit the turf. Then came another, then 2 more. 3 days later, 5 dogs were sprinting across the yard like it was heaven on earth. Laughter replaced the silence, barks filled the air like music. Strangers became neighbors again. And suddenly, I wasn't just building a dog park. I was building a resistance. The HOA, they noticed. A board member walked by, arms crossed, jaw tight. He said nothing, but I could feel it in his eyes. We lost control. And in that moment, I smiled. Because for the first time ever, it wasn't theirs to control anymore. Saturday. Morning. Sky, clear air buzzing. Backyard ready. I hung a hand-painted sign on the gate. All dogs welcome. Nitrogen monoxide HOA permission needed. It wasn't just a park. It was a message. Max was the first one through the gate. He ran like he'd been holding his breath for 3 years. Like freedom had finally grown legs and fur. Then came the others, golden retrievers, mutts, rescues, old dogs with gray faces, puppies stumbling through excitement. People I'd never met showed up. They brought their dogs, but stayed for the connection. Someone brought treats. Someone else brought water bowls. A neighbor who hadn't spoken to me in months walked over and said, "Thank you. We needed this more than we knew." I just nodded, fighting tears, because deep down, I knew this wasn't just healing Max. It was healing us. And for a few beautiful hours, it felt like the rules didn't matter. The fences didn't matter. The board didn't matter. Just the laughter, the barking, the belonging. But of course, the peace didn't last. Around 4 p.m. I heard it, the click of a phone camera, followed by a voice I knew too well. "You'll be hearing from us, double quotes, HOA, right on cue." But this time, I didn't flinch, because what they saw as a violation, I saw as a victory. And no piece of paper could take this back. 3 days later, I got the letter, thicker envelope, heavier paper, more legal jargon. Cease operations immediately. Unauthorized commercial activity, noise disturbance, violation of HOA guidelines 4.7, 9.3, and 12.1. They wanted it shut down. They wanted me fined. They wanted silence, but it was too late, because what they didn't know is that someone filmed the park that weekend, posted it, shared the story of Max, of me, of us. By the next morning, the video had gone viral. Tens of thousands of views. People from other states commenting, "Wish my neighborhood had this." This is what community looks like. HOAs are out of control. Reporters reached out, podcasters asked for interviews. Local news showed up at my front gate. The HOA couldn't hide behind rules anymore. They had to face the people, and when that spotlight hit, they did what people in power always do when they're exposed. They folded. No more fines. No more threats. No more letters. They released a statement about revisiting community policies and supporting neighbor-led initiatives. Translation: "You beat us, quietly, completely. And the best part? I never yelled. I never sued. I never stooped to their level. I built until they had nothing left to tear down. And now, the dog park's still open. Max is still running. And every weekend new faces walk through that gate, tails wagging, hearts wide open." This started with a complaint, but it ended with a community, looking back. I could have just moved, given in, leashed my life to someone else's rules, but I didn't. Because sometimes, what looks like a battle isn't meant to break you. It's meant to build you. All they saw was a barking dog, but I saw a soul that saved mine. And no law, no board, no neighborhood politics was going to erase that. I didn't create a dog park out of anger. I created it out of love, because love doesn't hide. Love fights back with something better. This wasn't just about Max. This was about every person who's ever been told, "You don't belong here. You're too loud. You don't fit our mold." And to them, I say you don't have to fight the system to beat it. You just have to build something it can't destroy. So if you're out there feeling silenced, cornered, small, get louder. Build the thing you wish existed, and if they complain, smile, because that means you're finally being heard.